My name is Emma, and I'm about to tell you how my older brother Marcus destroyed my life not once, but twice, and how my parents helped him do it. This isn't just a story about money, it's about how the people who are supposed to protect you can become your worst enemies. I was 28 years old, working as a marketing coordinator in Denver, Colorado. For 6 years, I'd been saving every penny I could for my dream. A small townhouse in the suburbs where I could finally have my own space, maybe adopt a dog, and build the life I'd always wanted. Living in a cramped studio apartment near downtown wasn't easy, but I kept my eyes on the prize. By spring of last year, I had managed to save $82,000. It wasn't a fortune, but in Denver's competitive housing market, it was enough for a decent down payment. Marcus was 5 years older than me, the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. While I worked my way through community college and then transferred to finish my degree at a state school, Marcus had gone to an expensive private university on our parents' dime. When he graduated with a business degree, they bought him a car. When he said he needed time to find himself, they supported him for 2 years while he traveled. The gambling started innocently enough, or so we thought. Marcus would go to the casino in Black Hawk with his friends on weekends, claiming it was just for fun. But fun turned into obsession, and obsession turned into addiction. By the time we realized how bad it had gotten, he'd already lost his job, sold his car, and moved back in with our parents. That April evening, when everything changed, started like any other. I'd just gotten home from work, exhausted from a particularly brutal presentation to clients, when Marcus called. His voice was different, desperate, almost manic. "Em, I need your help," he said, and I could hear the tremor in his voice. "I'm in trouble, real trouble." I should have hung up then. God, how I wish I had. "What kind of trouble?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "I owe some people money. Bad people. They're threatening me, Em. I need to pay them back tonight, or—" His voice trailed off. "How much?" I whispered. 15,000. My stomach dropped. "Marcus, I don't have that kind of money just lying around." "But you have your house savings. Please, Em, I'll pay you back. I swear on everything. I already have a plan to make the money back. I just need this to buy some time." I said no. I said it firmly, clearly, repeatedly. But Marcus didn't take no for an answer. He showed up at my apartment an hour later, our parents in tow. My mother was crying, mascara running down her cheeks as she clutched my father's arm. "Emma, please," she sobbed. "They said they'll hurt him. We can't let anything happen to your brother." My father, usually stoic and quiet, looked broken. "We'll make sure he pays you back," he promised. "We'll supervise it ourselves. But right now, we need to keep him safe." For 2 hours, they wore me down. They talked about family, about how Marcus had always been there for me when we were kids. They reminded me of the time he stood up to bullies for me in elementary school, how he taught me to ride a bike, how he held my hand at Grandma's funeral. They painted a picture of a loving older brother who just made some mistakes. Finally, exhausted and emotional, I gave in. But I wasn't stupid enough to just hand over cash. Instead, I gave Marcus my debit card and PIN, making him promise to only take the $15,000 he needed. I watched him leave with our parents, my card in his pocket, and a sick feeling in my stomach. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of dread. I immediately checked my banking app, and my worst fears were confirmed. The account was empty, not just the $15,000, everything. All $82,000 gone. The transaction history showed multiple ATM withdrawals throughout the night, each one the maximum amount allowed until there was nothing left. I couldn't breathe. 6 years of sacrifice, of eating ramen noodles and skipping vacations, of wearing the same clothes until they fell apart, all gone in one night. I called Marcus, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I called my parents, and my mother answered on the third ring. "He took it all," I said, my voice hollow, "every penny." There was silence on the other end, then my mother's voice, small and defensive. "I'm sure there's an explanation. Maybe he needed more than he thought." "An explanation? He stole $82,000 from me. That was my house money." "Don't be dramatic, Emma. He's your brother. I'm sure he'll explain everything when he gets home." I hung up and threw my phone across the room. Then I did something I rarely did. I called in sick to work, went to the liquor store, bought a bottle of wine, and proceeded to drink myself into oblivion while sending increasingly angry texts to Marcus. The worst one simply said, "You're dead to me. I hope you rot in hell for what you've done." The next morning, nursing a horrible hangover, I woke up to pounding on my door. My parents stood in the hallway, looking like they'd aged 10 years overnight. Without invitation, they pushed their way into my apartment. "We've talked to Marcus," my mother began, settling herself on my couch as if she belonged there. "He's very sorry for what happened. He says he only meant to take the $15,000, but then he saw an opportunity to win big and help you double your savings. He was trying to help." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that didn't sound like me. "Help? He stole everything I had." My father cleared his throat. "Emma, what's done is done. The money is gone, but we're still a family. Marcus is sick. Gambling addiction is a disease. Would you abandon him if he had cancer?" "Cancer doesn't steal your life savings," I shot back. "Money isn't everything," my mother said, and I saw red. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one who just lost 6 years of savings. You're not the one who has to renew their lease for another year because they can't afford a house anymore. You're not the one who has to start over from nothing at almost 30. "You're being selfish," my mother snapped, her tears from yesterday replaced with anger. "Your brother could have been killed. Is your money more important than his life?" "He wasn't going to be killed," I screamed. "He played you just like he played me. There were no dangerous people. He just wanted the money for gambling." But they wouldn't hear it. For an hour, they tag-teamed me with guilt trips, emotional manipulation, and outright gaslighting. According to them, I was the one breaking the family apart. I was the one being unreasonable. I was the one who needed to forgive and forget. Finally, I'd had enough. "Get out," I said quietly. "Emma," my father started. "Get out!" I screamed, yanking open my door. "And don't come back until you're ready to admit that your son is a thief and you're his enablers." They left, my mother crying again, my father's face hard with disappointment, not in Marcus, but in me. The next few months were the hardest of my life. Not only was I dealing with the emotional trauma of the betrayal, but the financial reality was crushing. Without my savings, I couldn't afford to move to a cheaper apartment. I didn't have money for a security deposit. I had to renew my expensive downtown lease for another year, watching my dream of homeownership slip further away. My parents called constantly, leaving voicemails that alternated between guilt trips and updates about Marcus. Apparently, he was getting help for his addiction. He joined Gamblers Anonymous. He was turning his life around. They never mentioned paying me back. "Don't you want to see your brother?" my mother would ask in her messages. "He misses you terribly. He talks about you all the time. Remember when you were little and he would read you bedtime stories? He still has that book you loved, Good Night Moon. He says he thinks about those days all the time." The manipulation was constant and exhausting. Every conversation with extended family members started with, "Your mother tells me you're not speaking to Marcus." Every family event I skipped resulted in a barrage of texts about how I was hurting everyone with my stubbornness. But I held firm. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects to try to rebuild my savings. I started a side hustle doing freelance marketing for small businesses. I cut my already modest budget even further, eating nothing but rice and beans some weeks, walking instead of taking the bus, cutting my own hair to save money. 3 months after the theft, something strange happened. My mother called with a different tone, lighter, almost cheerful. "Emma, honey, I have wonderful news. Marcus has been doing so well with his recovery. He hasn't gambled in months. He even got a job at a call center. He really wants to make things right with you." I felt a tiny crack in my armor. "Has he offered to pay me back?" "Well, these things take time, but he's trying, Emma. That has to count for something. Why don't you come to dinner on Sunday, just to see him? You don't have to forgive him right away, but maybe you could start rebuilding your relationship." I wanted to say no. Every logical part of my brain screamed at me to hang up and maintain my boundaries. But there was another part, the part that remembered my big brother teaching me to tie my shoes, carrying me on his shoulders at the state fair, sneaking me extra cookies when Mom wasn't looking. That part whispered, what if he really has changed? Against my better judgment, I agreed to one dinner. Just one. I told myself I was doing it for my parents, not for Marcus. The Sunday I showed up at my childhood home in Arvada, the suburb where I'd grown up, my hands were shaking. Marcus answered the door. He looked different, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know how sorry I am." The dinner was awkward at first. Marcus was subdued, almost meek. He talked about his GA meetings, his sponsor, the job he'd gotten. He showed me his 90-day chip. My parents beamed at him like he'd cured cancer. "I know I can't undo what I did," he said over dessert, "but I want to earn your trust back, whatever it takes." I didn't forgive him that night, or the next week, or even the next month. But slowly, carefully, I began to let him back into my life. We started with coffee dates in public places. I still didn't trust him in my apartment. He seemed genuinely committed to his recovery. He never asked for money, never mentioned gambling, never tried to minimize what he'd done. After 2 months of this careful dance, I began to relax. We started doing things we'd enjoyed before, hiking in the mountains, watching Rockies games on TV, trying new restaurants. Marcus always insisted on paying, even though I knew his call center job didn't pay much. "It's the least I can do," he'd say when I protested. Our parents were ecstatic. Family dinners resumed, and for a while, it felt almost normal. I still hadn't forgotten the $82,000. How could I? But I began to think that maybe, just maybe, people could change. One Saturday in September, Marcus suggested we go to Rocky Mountain Adventure Park, about an hour outside Denver. They had just opened a new zipline course that was supposed to be incredible, starting from a platform built into the mountain face and ending with a drop into a crystal-clear alpine lake. "Remember how we used to go to that place in Colorado Springs when we were teenagers?" he asked. "This one is supposed to be even better." I hesitated. The park was expensive, and I was still rebuilding my savings. But Marcus quickly offered to pay for both of us. "Consider it a very small payment on my massive debt to you," he said with a self-deprecating smile. The drive up was pleasant, windows down, classic rock playing on the radio. We talked about everything and nothing, his job, my work, the Broncos' chances this season. For a moment, it felt like we were just a normal brother and sister enjoying a day out. The zip line was incredible. Standing on that platform, looking out at the Rocky Mountains stretching endlessly before us, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Free. The ride itself was pure adrenaline, screaming through the air before plunging into the shockingly cold lake below. We must have gone down that zip line 6 times, laughing like kids, splashing each other in the lake, competing to see who could make the biggest splash on landing. By the time we headed back to Denver, I was exhausted but happier than I'd been in months. That's when things went wrong. We stopped at a drive-through burger place on the way back. All that activity had made us ravenous. When I reached for my wallet to pay for my share, I noticed my primary credit card was missing. My stomach lurched with a familiar dread. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked from the driver's seat. "My credit card is missing," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "The one I use for everything." "Oh man, that sucks. You probably dropped it at the park. Don't worry about it. I got lunch." I searched my wallet again, my purse, my pockets. Nothing. The sick feeling in my stomach grew stronger, but I pushed it down. I was being paranoid. Marcus had changed. He couldn't. When I got home that evening, I tore my apartment apart looking for the card. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, I checked my wallet one more time. There it was, my credit card, sitting in the wrong slot. I always put it in the front slot, but now it was tucked behind my library card. I told myself I was being paranoid. I'd been stressed, distracted. Maybe I'd put it in the wrong place without thinking. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. The next evening, I was settling in to watch Netflix when my phone buzzed. It was a fraud alert from my credit card company. "Did you authorize a $3,000 charge at Mountain Peak Casino? Reply yes or no." My blood turned to ice. Mountain Peak Casino was the place near my parents' house where Marcus used to gamble. Where he still went, apparently. I immediately replied no and logged into my credit card app. What I saw made me physically sick. Over the past 24 hours, there had been multiple charges across all my credit cards. Cash advances, gambling charges, ATM withdrawals. In total, over $7,000 had been charged to my accounts. I called Marcus immediately. The phone rang once, then went to voicemail. He declined my call. I called again. Same result. By the third try, his phone was turned off. With shaking hands, I called my mother. "Hello, sweetie," she answered cheerfully. "How was your day?" "Marcus stole my credit card information," I said flatly. "He's charged over $7,000 to my cards in the last day." The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought we'd been disconnected. Finally, she spoke. "There must be some mistake. Marcus wouldn't do that. He's been doing so well. There's no mistake, Mom. He took pictures of my cards when we went ziplining yesterday. He's at the casino right now. I'll call him, she said quickly. I'm sure there's an explanation. Maybe someone else got your information. You know these days with all the internet fraud? Mom, stop. We both know it was him. I'll call you back, she said and hung up. I didn't wait. I got in my car and drove straight to my parents' house. It was nearly 11 p.m. when I arrived, but I didn't care. I let myself in with my key and sat in the living room, in the dark, waiting. Marcus came home just after midnight, humming to himself as he flicked on the light. When he saw me sitting there, he jumped back with a yelp. Jesus, Em, you scared the shit out of me. Where's my money, Marcus? His face went through a series of expressions: confusion, innocence, fear, before settling on defensive anger. I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the crap. I know you took pictures of my credit cards. I know you've charged over $7,000 to them. Where is my money? That's when our parents came downstairs, my mother in her robe, my father in pajamas. They looked between us, and I could see my mother already picking sides. Emma, what are you doing here so late? She asked, as if I was the problem. Your son stole from me, again. Marcus's mask finally slipped. He collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. I was trying to win back what I owed you, he mumbled. I had a system. I was up $4,000 at one point. I was going to surprise you with a check, start paying you back. But then, it went bad. You were trying to help her? My mother said hopefully, latching onto this ridiculous explanation. Oh, Marcus, your heart was in the right place, even if... Are you kidding me right now? I exploded. He stole from me. Again, he committed credit card fraud. And you're buying this bullshit story that he was trying to help? My father finally spoke. Emma, calm down. What's done is done. We'll figure out a way to handle this as a family. As a family? You want to know what this family has done for me? This family has let him destroy my life not once, but twice. This family has chosen a gambling addict and thief over their daughter who did everything right. This family can go to hell. I stood up, looking each of them in the eye. I'm done. Do you hear me? Done. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my apartment. You're all dead to me. Marcus finally looked up, tears in his eyes. Em, please, I'm sick. I need help. Then get help, but not from me. Never from me again. I walked out, ignoring my mother's sobs and my father's calls to come back. As I drove home, I felt something break inside me, but also something else. Relief. I was finally free of them. The next few weeks were a blur of phone calls with credit card companies, disputes, and paperwork. Unlike the direct bank theft, some of the credit card companies initially sided with me. But Marcus had been smart. He'd used the cards at places that could verify it was him, places where he was a known customer. One by one, my disputes were denied. The financial hit was devastating, but not as bad as the first time. What really hurt was my credit score. When the updated report came in, I dropped 127 points. The interest rates on my cards skyrocketed. The pre-approval I'd gotten for a home loan was revoked. I was further from buying a house than I'd been before I even started saving. I had no choice but to get a second job. I found night work doing data entry for a medical billing company. The pay wasn't great, but it was something. My new schedule was brutal. Marketing job from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., an hour commute home, a quick dinner, then data entry from 7 p.m. to midnight. Weekends were for sleeping and my freelance clients. My phone never stopped ringing. My parents called constantly, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. Marcus sent long, rambling texts apologizing and explaining his disease. Extended family members reached out, having heard concerning things about the family situation. I ignored them all. The isolation was hard, but not as hard as being repeatedly betrayed. I threw myself into work, into rebuilding. Every dollar saved felt like a small victory, a step away from them and toward the life I wanted. One October evening, exhausted after another 16-hour day, I saw my mom had called 4 times. Against my better judgment, I listened to the last voicemail. Emma, sweetie, it's Mom. I know you're upset and you have every right to be. But Halloween is coming up and I can't stop thinking about how much you used to love it. Remember how you'd plan your costume for months? And how Marcus would take you trick-or-treating even when he was too cool for it in high school? He never complained, not once. He'd walk you around for hours, making sure you hit every house, carrying your candy when the bag got too heavy. Those were such precious times, Emma. We all miss you so much. The house feels wrong without you. Please, just think about coming home. I deleted the message, but the damage was done. The memories came flooding back. Marcus dressed as a vampire, pretending to be scared of my little witch costume. Marcus trading me all his Reese's for my Smarties because he knew they were my favorite. Marcus defending my right to trick-or-treat just one more year when our parents said I was getting too old. Who was that person? How did that protective, caring big brother become the man who destroyed my life for a gambling high? 2 weeks later, they showed up at my apartment. I saw them through the peephole, my parents looking older and sadder than I'd ever seen them. I debated not answering, but I knew they'd just keep coming back. 5 minutes, I said, opening the door but not inviting them in. They exchanged glances, then my mother spoke. We're hosting Thanksgiving this year. The whole family will be there, your aunts and uncles, your cousins. Everyone's been asking about you. Good for them. Emma, please, my father said. It's Thanksgiving, a time for family, for gratitude, for forgiveness. I have nothing to be grateful to you for. That's not true, my mother said sharply. We raised you, loved you, supported you, and then threw me under the bus the second Marcus needed enabling. We're not here to fight, my father said tiredly. We just want our family back together. One dinner, that's all we're asking. Marcus is really trying this time. He's been in therapy. He's working 2 jobs to save money. He wants to start paying you back. I laughed bitterly. I've heard that before. Please, my mother said, and for the first time, I saw real pain in her eyes. Not the manipulative tears she usually employed, but genuine hurt. I know we've made mistakes. I know we've hurt you by not handling things better. But we love you, Emma. Both of you. And it's killing us to have our family torn apart like this. You tore it apart when you chose him over me, repeatedly. They left shortly after, but not before my mother played her ace. I already told everyone you'd be there. Your Aunt Linda is driving in from Wyoming just to see you. Your cousin Sarah is bringing her new baby. She named her Emma after you. Please don't make me tell them you're not coming. The emotional manipulation was as transparent as glass, but effective. I spent the next 2 weeks agonizing over the decision. Part of me wanted to maintain my boundaries, to protect myself from further hurt. But another part, the part that still remembered happy Thanksgivings, the smell of my mother's turkey, the sound of football on TV while my father dozed in his recliner, that part wanted to go home. In the end, I caved. I told myself it was for the extended family, not for Marcus or my parents. I told myself I could handle one dinner. I told myself a lot of lies. The day before Thanksgiving, I called my mother and told her I'd come. Her joy was so intense I could feel it through the phone. Oh, Emma, this is wonderful. I'll make all your favorites, the green bean casserole, the sweet potato pie, everything just how you like it, and don't worry about Marcus. Everything will be perfectly civil. It's going to be beautiful, just like old times. Thanksgiving arrived cold and crisp, with the kind of bright blue sky that made the mountains look painted against the horizon. I sat in my car outside my parents' house for 10 minutes, gathering courage. Through the window, I could see family members moving around, the warm glow of home I'd been shut out of for months. When I finally went inside, I was immediately enveloped in hugs from aunts and uncles who hadn't seen me since the previous Christmas. My cousin Sarah showed off baby Emma, a chubby-cheeked cherub who grabbed my finger with surprising strength. We named her after you because you've always been the strong one in the family, Sarah whispered. I want her to be like you, independent, successful, someone who stands up for herself. If only she knew, I thought. Marcus kept his distance at first, offering only a small nod when I entered. He looked good, healthier than he had in months, dressed in a nice button-down shirt I didn't recognize. Probably bought with my money, I thought bitterly. Dinner started well enough. The conversation flowed around safe topics: work, the weather, the Broncos' winning streak. I found myself relaxing incrementally, laughing at my uncle's bad jokes, cooing over baby pictures. For a moment, I could almost pretend everything was normal. Then Marcus started talking. You know, he said during a lull in conversation, this year has really taught me a lot about the importance of family. When you hit rock bottom, you learn who really has your back. My hand tightened on my fork. He continued, oblivious or uncaring. I'm just so grateful to Mom and Dad for standing by me through my recovery, and to everyone here for being so understanding. It means everything to know you have people who love you unconditionally. That's beautiful, Marcus, my aunt said. Family is everything. Exactly, Marcus agreed, finally looking directly at me. Even when there are misunderstandings or hurt feelings, real family finds a way to forgive and move forward. I set down my fork carefully, deliberately. The table had gone quiet, everyone sensing the sudden tension. Misunderstandings? I said, my voice deadly calm. Is that what we're calling theft now? Emma, my mother warned. No, I said, standing up. My legs were shaking, but my voice was steady. I've sat here for 2 hours, playing nice, pretending everything is fine. But I'm done pretending. I looked around the table at all their faces, some confused, some uncomfortable, some already judgmental. Do you all want to know why I haven't been around? Why I've missed family dinners and birthdays and Sunday barbecues? It's because Marcus, I pointed at him, stole $82,000 from me, my entire savings. Money I'd scraped together for 6 years to buy a house. Gone in one night to feed his gambling addiction. Gasps around the table. My aunt's hand flew to her mouth. But wait, I continued, my voice rising. That's not even the best part. After my parents convinced me to forgive him, after I gave him a second chance, he did it again. Stole my credit card information and ran up $7,000 in debt. Destroyed my credit score. Set me back years, maybe decades, from ever owning a home. Emma, please, my father said. This isn't the time or place. When is the time, Dad? When is it ever the time to hold Marcus accountable? When is it the time to choose your daughter who did everything right over your son who steals and lies and destroys? Marcus tried to interrupt, his face red. I was sick, Emma. Addiction is a disease. I was trying to... You were trying to win. I cut him off. That's all you've ever been trying to do. Win the next hand, win the next bet, win back what you lost. And every time you lose, I'm the one who pays the price. I turned to my parents. And you too. You enabled him every step of the way, made excuses, guilt-tripped me, made me the villain for wanting justice, for wanting my money back, for wanting the life I worked for. My mother was crying now. Real tears this time? We just wanted our family together, she whispered. No, I said. You wanted the appearance of family, the Facebook photos and holiday cards that show everything is perfect. Well, it's not perfect. It's broken. Marcus broke it, and you helped him. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, then turned back one last time. I'm done protecting your feelings, done keeping family secrets, done pretending that forgiveness means accepting abuse. Marcus, you stole my future. Mom, Dad, you chose him over me every single time. Live with that. The room exploded as I left, voices raised, accusations flying. I heard my uncle demanding to know if it was true, my aunt defending me, my parents trying to explain. But I didn't stop. I got in my car and drove away, leaving the chaos behind. I expected the aftermath of my Thanksgiving explosion to be lonely. I expected to be completely cut off, vilified by the extended family, painted as the unstable one who ruined dinner. What I didn't expect was my phone to start ringing an hour after I got home. The first call was from my Uncle Pete, my dad's brother. Emma, it's Pete. I just wanted to say, Jesus Christ, kid. 82,000? Are you serious? Every penny, I confirmed. And your parents knew? They convinced me to give him the money in the first place. Told me he owed dangerous people, that he'd be hurt if I didn't help. Pete let out a string of curses. I knew something was off. The way they talked about you not coming around anymore, it didn't add up. Marcus has always been a spoiled little shit, but this is criminal. Yes, it is, but according to them, family doesn't press charges. Bullshit. Family doesn't steal from family. Listen, Emma, I don't have much, but I want to help. Let me send you something, help you get back on your feet. I was touched but declined. I appreciate it, Uncle Pete, but I need to do this myself. Just thank you for believing me. The next call was from my Aunt Linda, my mom's sister who'd driven from Wyoming. Honey, I am so sorry, she said without preamble. I had no idea things had gotten this bad. Your mother always made it sound like you were being stubborn about some minor squabble. Of course she did. I gave her hell after you left. Told her she should be ashamed of herself, choosing that deadbeat over you. She tried to explain about his disease, and I told her where she could shove that excuse. Despite everything, I smiled. Aunt Linda had always been the firecracker of the family. What really gets me, she continued, is that they let you struggle alone. You've been working yourself to death while he sits on his ass feeling sorry for himself. It's disgusting. The calls kept coming. Cousins who offered support, great aunts who were appalled, family friends who'd heard what happened through the grapevine. Not everyone sided with me. Some still thought I'd been too harsh, that I should have handled it privately. But more supported me than I'd ever expected. The most surprising call came 3 days after Thanksgiving from my cousin Derek, who worked in banking. I've been thinking about your situation, he said. Have you looked into legal options? What Marcus did with the credit cards is fraud, plain and simple. The fact that the credit card companies denied your disputes doesn't mean you can't pursue criminal charges. My parents would lose their minds. So what? They didn't care about your mind when they let him destroy your credit. Look, I have a friend who's a prosecutor. She deals with cases like this. Want me to connect you? I thought about it for a long moment. Let me think about it. But the legal route wasn't necessary. The family pressure on Marcus and my parents intensified over the following weeks. Uncle Pete showed up at their house and read them the riot act. Aunt Linda called daily to berate my mother. Cousins refused to speak to Marcus at family gatherings. Then, 2 weeks before Christmas, I got an unexpected visitor at my apartment. When I opened the door, my grandmother stood there, all 4 feet 11 inches of Irish fury. Grandma, how did you... Your cousin drove me, she said, marching into my apartment without invitation. Sit, we need to talk. I sat. You didn't argue with Grandma O'Brien. I've been hearing things, she began, settling into my second-hand armchair like a queen on her throne. Things that make me ashamed of the daughter I raised and the grandson she produced. $82,000, Emma? Yes, Grandma. She shook her head, her white curls bobbing. When I came to this country, I had nothing. Worked 3 jobs to support my children. Your grandfather worked himself into an early grave to give us a better life. And this is what they do with that legacy? Enable a thief and abandon the child who honors our values? Mom and Dad think they're helping him. Bullshit, she said, and I blinked at the profanity. Grandma rarely cursed. They're not helping him, they're crippling him, and they're destroying you in the process. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is for you. Grandma, no, I can't. You can and you will, she said firmly. It's not charity, it's justice. Marcus stole your future and your parents let him. I won't let my granddaughter suffer for their failures. The envelope contained a check for $10,000. Grandma, this is too much. It's not enough, but it's what I can spare. Use it for your house fund. And Emma? She grasped my hand with her gnarled fingers. Don't you dare forgive them unless they earn it. Real amends, real change, real restitution. Anything less is an insult to what they've put you through. After Grandma's visit, things shifted. The family pressure on my parents intensified. And suddenly, they were the ones being excluded from gatherings, the ones fielding uncomfortable questions. Marcus's reputation in the family was destroyed. No one trusted him. No one wanted him around their homes or valuables. I used Grandma's money to pay off some of the credit card debt, which helped my credit score marginally. I kept working my 2 jobs, kept saving every penny. My life was exhausting but stable. I'd found a rhythm that didn't include my immediate family, and I was okay with that. Then, 3 days before Christmas, Marcus showed up at my work. I was walking to my car after a particularly long day when I saw him leaning against it. My first instinct was to turn around and go back inside, call security. But something in his posture, defeated, smaller somehow, made me approach cautiously. You have 2 minutes, I said, keeping my distance. I'm in therapy, he said without preamble. Real therapy, not just GA meetings. The therapist says I have underlying trauma that manifests as addiction. She says I use gambling to feel in control when everything else feels chaotic. Good for you. I got a second job, warehouse work at night. I'm saving everything I can. I have $3,000 so far. I know it's nothing compared to what I owe you, but it's nothing, I agreed. You stole $89,000 from me in total. You destroyed my credit, my dreams, my trust. $3,000 doesn't even cover the interest I'm paying on the credit cards you maxed out. I know, he said quietly. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm trying, Em. I'm really trying this time. You were trying last time too, remember? Right up until you stole from me again. He flinched. I deserve that. I deserve all of it. I wanted you to know that I'm going to pay you back, every penny. It might take me years, but I'll do it. I'll believe it when I see it. Also, he continued, pulling out an envelope, Mom and Dad wanted me to give you this. It's a cashier's check. They took out a second mortgage on the house. I stared at the envelope like it might bite me. How much? $50,000. They said it's a start. They'll give you more when they can. $50,000. It wasn't everything, but it was significant. It was acknowledgement. It was them finally choosing me. I took the envelope with shaking hands. This doesn't fix everything, I said. I know, but maybe it's a start? I looked at my brother, really looked at him for the first time in months. He did look different. The manic energy that had always surrounded him was gone, replaced by something calmer, sadder, but more real. I'll think about it, I said finally. But Marcus, if you ever steal from me again, I won't just cut you off. I'll press charges. I'll see you in jail. Do you understand? I understand, and I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing in the parking lot, holding an envelope that represented the first real acknowledgement of the wrong that had been done to me. The $50,000 changed everything and nothing. Practically, it allowed me to pay off all the credit card debt, put a decent chunk toward a new house fund, and quit my second job. My credit score would take years to fully recover, but at least I was no longer drowning in debt. Emotionally, it was more complicated. My parents had finally taken concrete action to address the harm they'd enabled, but the betrayal still stung. They called a few days after Marcus's visit, both on the line, sounding older than I'd ever heard them. Emma, my mother began, we know the money doesn't erase what happened. We know we failed you as parents. We chose the easy path, my father added. It was easier to enable Marcus than to hold him accountable, easier to pressure you to forgive than to face what we'd allowed to happen. We were cowards. Yes, I agreed. You were. We're in therapy too, my mother said. Family therapy and individual. We're trying to understand why we sacrificed one child to save the other. Why we thought that was acceptable. And there's no excuse, she said simply. We favored Marcus because he was troubled. We took you for granted because you were strong. We told ourselves we were being good parents, but we were just being enablers. It was everything I'd wanted to hear, but somehow it wasn't enough. Words were easy. They'd had lots of words before. I appreciate the money, I said carefully, and I appreciate that you're getting help. But I need you to understand, we don't have a relationship right now. Maybe we can build one in the future, but it will be on my terms, at my pace. We understand, my father said. Take all the time you need. I spent Christmas alone that year, and it was peaceful. I ordered Chinese food, watched movies, and looked at real estate listings. With the money from my parents and what I'd managed to save, I could afford a small down payment again. Not on my dream townhouse, but on something. A start. Marcus started sending me money every month, $500 exactly on the first. Not much against what he owed, but consistent. He included notes with each payment. Payment 1 of many, I'm keeping track, M. Payment 2, picked up extra shifts, M. Payment 3, still in therapy, still working, M. I didn't respond to the notes, but I cashed the checks. By March, he'd sent $2,500. Along with payment 6 came a longer note. M, I've been sober from gambling for 8 months. I know you don't care, and you shouldn't have to. But I wanted you to know. I think about what I stole from you every day. Not just the money, your trust, your safety, your dreams. I'm going to pay back the money. I don't know if I can ever pay back the rest. Spring arrived with unexpected hope. My credit score had improved enough that I qualified for an FHA loan, and I found a small condo in Westminster. Not my dream townhouse, but mine nonetheless. The day I got the keys, I sat on the floor of my empty living room and cried. They weren't entirely sad tears. I'd been expecting to make this journey alone, but my extended family rallied around me. Uncle Pete and his sons helped me move. Aunt Linda drove down from Wyoming with a carload of housewarming gifts. Grandma gave me a cast iron skillet that had been her mother's, along with strict instructions on how to season it properly. A home needs history, she said. This pan has cooked 1,000 family meals. May it cook 1,000 more in your new home? My cousin Sarah brought baby Emma to visit, and we spent an afternoon baby-proofing cabinets I didn't even have dishes for yet. It felt like building a future, one small step at a time. Marcus continued his monthly payments, now up to $750 as he'd gotten a raise. By the 6-month mark, he'd paid back $6,000. My parents sent another $10,000 from their savings, bringing their total to $60,000. Together, they'd returned $66,000 of the $89,000 stolen. Not complete restitution, but significant progress. In July, my therapist challenged me to think about what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with my immediate family going forward. You're under no obligation to forgive, she reminded me. But carrying active anger is exhausting. What would peace look like for you? I thought about it for weeks. Peace wouldn't be pretending nothing happened. It wouldn't be the close-knit family we'd once been. That family was built on a lie, with me as the designated sacrifice. But maybe, possibly, it could be something new. Something with boundaries and honesty and accountability. I decided to test the waters with a single text to my parents. I bought a condo. I'm safe and doing well. The response was immediate but restrained. We're so proud of you. Thank you for letting us know. A month later, I agreed to meet them for coffee. In public, time-limited, on my terms. They looked older, grayer, but also somehow more solid. We talked about safe topics, my job, the condo, the weather. When they started to bring up Marcus, I held up a hand. Not yet, I said, maybe not ever. This is about us. They respected the boundary, and we parted after an hour. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't awful. It was a start. By October, I'd settled into my new life. My condo was small but cozy, decorated with thrift store finds and gifts from supportive family members. I'd been promoted at work, partly because I was no longer exhausted from working 2 jobs. I'd even started dating someone, a teacher named Alex, who understood why I was cautious about money and family. That's when Marcus called. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken directly since that day in the parking lot, but something made me pick up. Em, thank you for answering. I have news. Good news, I think. What kind of news? I got a settlement from a car accident 3 years ago. Remember when that truck hit me? The case finally settled. After lawyer fees and everything, I'm getting $31,000. I waited for the punchline, for the excuse about why he couldn't use it to pay me back. I'm sending you all of it, he continued, every penny. That brings my total repayment to $37,000. Still not everything, but... Marcus, I interrupted, my voice shaky. Are you serious? The check is already in the mail, certified so you know it won't bounce. I know money can't fix what I did, but I need to make this right as much as I can. The check arrived 3 days later, $31,000 made out to me. I stared at it for a long time, remembering the brother who'd stolen everything, twice, but also remembering the brother who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd walked me trick-or-treating, who'd held my hand at Grandma's funeral. With Marcus's payment and my parents' contributions, I'd now recovered $97,000. Actually more than what was stolen when I factored in some of the interest. It didn't erase the pain, the broken trust, the lost opportunities. But it was accountability. It was amends. It was trying. The week before Thanksgiving, my phone rang. Mom, I know you probably have plans, she said carefully, but we're hosting again this year. Smaller this time, just immediate family and Grandma. We'd love to have you, but we understand if... Will Marcus be there? Yes, but Emma, we've set clear boundaries. No talk of forgiveness or moving past things. No pressure, just family dinner, if you want it. I thought about the previous year's disaster, the pain of it all. But I also thought about Grandma's cast iron skillet, about the history we carry with us, about the possibility of building something new from broken pieces. I'll think about it, I said. In the end, I went. Not because I forgave everything, not because we were back to normal, but because I was strong enough to choose. I brought Alex with me, partly for support, partly to establish that I had my own life now, separate from them. Dinner was quiet, careful. Marcus sat at the opposite end of the table, offering only a small nod when I arrived. He looked healthier than I'd ever seen him, clear-eyed, steady, present. My parents were attentive, but not overbearing, respectful of boundaries in a way they'd never been before. I heard you got promoted, my father said. Regional marketing manager, right? Yes, it came with a good raise. That's wonderful, my mother said, and I could see her physically stopping herself from saying more, from overstepping. It was Grandma who broke the careful tension. Well, this is goddamn awkward, she announced. Everyone walking on eggshells, afraid to breathe wrong. Marcus, pass the potatoes. Emma, tell us about this young man you've brought. The rest of you act like normal humans instead of robots. Somehow that helped. The conversation loosened, became more natural. Alex charmed everyone with stories from his classroom. Uncle Pete argued with my father about football. Aunt Linda complained about the drive from Wyoming. As we were clearing dishes, Marcus approached me in the kitchen. "Thank you for coming," he said simply. "I know it couldn't have been easy." "No," I agreed. "It wasn't." "I know I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know I'm 15 months clean. I haven't placed a bet, haven't even bought a lottery ticket. I'm going to stay clean." "I hope so, for your sake, not mine. I'm still saving to pay back the rest. It might take a while, but—" "Marcus," I interrupted, "you've paid back more than the money, the interest, the credit damage. We're square financially." His eyes widened. "But I'm not saying we're good. I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm saying the debt is paid. What happens next isn't about money." He nodded, understanding. "Thank you. I mean it. Thank you. It's been a year since that second Thanksgiving. I won't lie and say everything is perfect now. It isn't. Trust, once shattered, doesn't magically repair itself. But we're building something new. Slowly, carefully. Marcus has stayed clean. He's now a supervisor at his warehouse job and volunteers with a gambling addiction hotline. He sends me a text on the 1st of each month. Not money anymore, just still clean, still grateful. I don't always respond, but I read them. My parents continue therapy. They've become advocates in their community for families dealing with addiction, sharing their story of enabling and its consequences. My mother called me crying after their first speaking engagement. "We told them about you," she said, "about how we failed you." One woman came up after and said her daughter is going through the same thing, and she realized she's been enabling her son just like we did. Maybe our mistakes can help someone else. I see them once a month now, always on my terms. We're working on building an adult relationship based on respect rather than obligation. It's hard work, but it's honest work. My condo has become a real home. The walls are painted, the rooms are furnished, and Grandma's cast iron skillet has indeed cooked hundreds of meals. Alex moved in 6 months ago, after long conversations about financial boundaries and transparency. We're talking about marriage, but I'm in no rush. I've learned the value of building solid foundations. The extended family has embraced my new boundaries as the new normal. Holiday gatherings happen at neutral locations now. No one pressures me about forgiveness or moving past it. They understand that healing happens on the victim's timeline, not anyone else's. Sometimes I think about the person I was before, the girl who saved every penny, who trusted her family implicitly, who believed that love meant never having boundaries. I grieve for her sometimes, for her innocence and her losses. But I'm also grateful for who I've become, someone who knows her worth, who sets boundaries, who understands that love without accountability isn't love at all. The money is mostly recovered. My credit score is slowly climbing. I have my home, my promotion, my life. But the real recovery hasn't been financial. It's been learning that I deserve respect, that my needs matter, that family isn't about blind loyalty, but about mutual care and accountability. To anyone reading this who's been betrayed by family, who's been told to forgive and forget, who's been made the villain for demanding justice, you're not wrong. You're not selfish. You're not breaking the family. They broke it when they betrayed you. Your pain is valid, your anger is justified, and your boundaries are necessary. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable. Sometimes the only way to save a relationship is to let it burn down and rebuild from the ashes. Sometimes family first means putting yourself first because you're family too. My brother stole $89,000 from me. My parents helped him do it. I lost my savings, my credit, my trust, and 2 years of my life to their betrayal. But in the end, I gained something more valuable, myself, my voice, my power, my future. And that's something no one can ever steal from me again.